The 130 Storey Treehouse, Laser Eyes and Annoying Flies. Chapter 1. The 130 Storey Treehouse. Hi, my name is Andy. This is my friend Terry. We live in a tree. Well, when I say tree, I mean treehouse. And when I say treehouse, I don't just mean any old treehouse. I mean a 130-story treehouse. It used to be a 117-story treehouse, but we've added another 13 stories. So what are you waiting for? Come on up. We've got a soap bubble blaster, a non-stop dot level, a 13-story igloo, the GRABINATOR. It can grab anything from anywhere at any time. An extraterrestrial observation center, a time-wasting level, a toilet paper factory because you can never have too much toilet paper, a giant juggling octopus, a soft grassy hill perfect for rolling down, a super strong legs level, a TFB, that's short for Treehouse Fire Brigade, a people-eating plant called petal, as well as being our home. The treehouse is where we make books together. I write the words and Terry draws the pictures. As you can see, we've been doing this for quite a while now. Things don't always go to plan, of course. But we always get our book done in the end. Chapter 2. Buzz, buzz, buzz. If you're like most of our readers, you're probably wondering if we've ever been abducted by a giant flying eyeball from outer space. Well, it's funny you should be wondering that, because that's exactly what happened to us just the other day. It all started when I was in the extraterrestrial observation center. I was looking through the telescope trying to spot something that might give me an idea of what to write about in our next book, when I came across the strangest looking alien I'd ever seen. It had a hairy body with 6 legs, 2 wings, and a weird trumpet thing sticking out the front of its face. It was making a buzzing sound, kind of like a fly, which wasn't surprising, really, because after a while I realized that's what it was, a fly, just an ordinary fly. "Hey, get off my telescope," I yelled. It did, but then it started buzzing around and around my head. At that moment, I realized that this was no ordinary fly. This was a really annoying fly. "Shoo! Get out of here!" In the end, I'd no choice but to go and get the swatter. "You're really in for it now." I swiped. "Swat you!" and swiped, and swiped, and swiped, and swiped, and swiped. But it was no use. I couldn't swat it. That fly was not only really annoying, it was also really fast. I needed something bigger, so I went and got the super swatter. I super swiped, and super swiped, and super swiped again. But no matter how much super swiping I did, I still couldn't swat that fly. So I went and got the super-sized fly spray. Goodbye, fly ever. I super sprayed and super sprayed and super sprayed. I used up the whole can, but the fly was just as alive and just as annoying as ever. On the other hand, was not feeling so great. I had to get rid of that fly once and for all. It was time to unleash the fly cannon. I had it lined up perfectly. I couldn't miss. Ready? Aim! Fire! Blam! Like I said, I couldn't miss. But guess what? I did. When the smoke cleared, there it was. That fly. That really annoying fly. Chapter 3. Fire! Hi, Andy, said Terry. What's the matter? That fly, I said. That's what. I'm trying to get ideas for the next book, but I can't because it keeps buzzing around my head and distracting me. Have you tried swatting it? Said Terry. Yes, I said. Of course I've tried swatting it. Have you tried super swatting it? Yes. What about spraying it? Yes, I said. I've tried everything, even blasting it with the fly cannon, but it didn't work. Nothing worked. Maybe I can help, said Terry. I could use my laser eyes. Since when do you have laser eyes? I said. Since this morning, when I invented them, he said. Look, I'll show you. Terry took a deep breath, focused on the fly and shot laser beams at it right out of his eyes. The fly darted out of the way. Terry took another deep breath and fired again. And again. And again. And again. Terry's laser beams were hitting everything except for the fly. That is, and everything they had burst into flames. Terry, I yelled, stop! You're setting the treehouse on fire! Oops, said Terry. I grabbed an emergency bucket, filled it with water, and threw it on one of the fires. Don't just stand there, I said to Terry. Get a bucket and help me. Terry grabbed the other emergency bucket and filled it with water. Oh no, he said. It's leaking. There's a hole in my bucket. Then fix it, I said. Hey, that reminds me of a song, said Terry. There's a hole in my bucket. Dear Andy, there's a hole in my bucket. Dear Andy, a hole. Before I knew it, I was singing too. It's a pretty catchy song. Well, fix it, dear Terry, dear Terry, dear Terry. Well, fix it, dear Terry, dear Terry, fix it. With what shall I fix it, dear Andy, with what shall I fix it, dear Andy, with what? Suddenly Jill came rushing in. Fire! Fire! She yelled. Your treehouse is on fire. We know, I said. Then why are you just standing around singing? Why aren't you putting it out? Because there's a hole in our bucket. Dear Jill, there's a hole in our bucket. Dear Jill, there's a hole. Oh, for goodness sake, said Jill. There's a much faster way to put out fires than by singing songs about buckets. She grabbed an emergency hammer and smashed the glass on our fire alarm. The siren wailed, and within moments the Treehouse Fire Brigade rushed in and got straight to work. The Trunkinator was blasting water in all directions so fast it looked like he had 3 heads. Didn't really have 3 heads, although I sort of wish he did. A 3-headed elephant would be really cool. In no time at all, thanks to the brave firefighting crew, the fire was out and the tree was saved. "Thank goodness for the Treehouse Fire Brigade," said Terry. "And thank goodness for me," said Jill. "If I hadn't come along when I did, you'd both still be singing that silly song while the treehouse burned down around you. Why was the treehouse on fire, anyway?" "It was Terry's fault," I said. "He did it with his new laser eyes." "Laser eyes?" said Jill. "Yeah," said Terry. "I've laser eyes. I can show you if you like." "No, Terry," I said. "They're too dangerous." "But what about the fly?" said Terry. "What fly?" said Jill. "That really annoying one," I said. "It's driving me mad. I've tried swatting it, super swatting it, super spraying it and blasting it with the fly cannon, but it's no use. It won't die." "That poor fly," said Jill. "You mean that annoying fly," I said. Buzz, buzzed the fly from the branch just above my head. "Nobody move," I whispered. "I have a plan. You're not going to hurt it, are you?" said Jill. "No chance of that," I said. "I can't hurt it. That fly's indestructible. I'm just going to give it a little holiday in my luxurious, super modern, high security fly hotel." "Andy," said Jill, "that's not a fly hotel. It's a bug catcher. Let it out right now." "No way," I said. "But it's cruel," said Jill. "How would you like it if somebody trapped you in a bug catcher?" "Well," I said, "I don't suppose I'd like it, but as if that's going to happen." And then guess what? It did happen. Well, something pretty similar to being trapped in a bug catcher. Anyway, suddenly we found ourselves in a tree encased in a gigantic clear dome. "Did you order a tree dome, Terry?" I said. "No," he said. "Did you?" "Not that I recall," I said. "Then where did it come from?" said Terry. "I think it might have something to do with that UFO up there," said Jill. "Don't you mean UFO?" I said. "No," said Jill, pointing at a large oval object hovering above the tree. "Look, it's definitely a UFO, an unidentified flying eyeball." "Wow," said Terry, "a giant flying eyeball. That's the coolest thing I've ever seen." Chapter 4. Goodbye, Earth. We stared up at the giant flying eyeball. It stared back down at us. Then the whole tree began to tremble and shake and rise up into the air. "I didn't know a tree could fly," said Terry. "I don't think the tree's flying," said Jill. "I think the UFO is lifting it up. We're being abducted by a giant flying eyeball." "Yay!" said Terry. "We're going on an intergalactic space adventure. I love intergalactic space adventures." "Me too," I said. "And just think of all the ideas we'll get for our next book. The higher we got, the faster we went, and in what felt like no time at all, we had left Earth's atmosphere and entered outer space. The day we were abducted by a giant flying eyeball and taken on a crazy ride through space. We were on the outer edge of the solar system when the 3D video phone rang. Ring, 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 ring. I pushed the button to answer it. It was Mr. Big Nose, our publisher. His big nose filled the screen. "What took you so long to answer the phone?" he yelled. "Where were you?" "We're in space," I said. "We just passed Uranus." "Are you trying to be funny?" said Mr. Big Nose. "I'm a busy man, you know. I don't have time for jokes." "No, it's not a joke," I said. "It's true. We really are in space." "What are you doing out there?" he shouted. "You're supposed to be writing a book, remember?" "I do remember," I said, "and I was trying to get ideas for it, but I couldn't because this really annoying fly was really annoying me, and then we got abducted by a giant flying eyeball." "A likely story," said Mr. Big Nose, "but even if it were true, it's no excuse. Your book is due at 5 o'clock on Friday, and it had better be good. In fact, it had better be better than good. It had better be out of this world." "I think we can safely promise you that," I said. "What?" said Mr. Big Nose. "I can't see you very well. You're breaking up." "You're breaking up too," I said. "I'll break you up if don't get your two on time," yelled Mr. Big Nose, and then the screen went blank. "Goodbye, Mr. Big Nose," said Terry. "Goodbye, solar system," said Jill. "What will we do now?" said Terry. "Let's get started on the book," I said. "I've got a great idea for the beginning. Get this, I'm chasing a fly around and then you come along and try to help, but you set the treehouse on fire, and then Jill calls the treehouse fire brigade, and then we and our whole tree get abducted by a giant flying eyeball." "Wow," said Terry. "I love it. Action-packed. What happens next? Where does the eyeball take us?" "Well, I'm not too sure," I said, "because it hasn't happened yet. But I think we travel for a long time." "A long time?" said Terry. "How long?" "Not too long," I said. "And it actually feels really short because we go to the time-wasting level and waste lots and lots of time, and soon all the time is wasted, and we are there. Come on, let's go. There's no time to waste." Actually, as it turned out, there was quite a lot actually. We began wasting time immediately. We started by tearing paper up into millions of tiny pieces and throwing them around to make snowstorms. Then, when there's no more paper left, we decided to pop some bubble wrap. We must have popped at least 10 million bubbles each. After that, we made silly noises. We made every silly noise you could think of, and some that nobody had ever thought of. And I don't know how much time we wasted doing online personality quizzes, but it was a lot. After all the time wasting, we are feeling quite tired, and we'd only wasted 1 hour. So we decided to sit on the sofa and watch Elephant on a Bicycle. We had a lot of trouble choosing an episode though. because they're all so good. I mean, look at them. Which one would you have chosen? Elephant on a Bicycle, Season 1. Elephant on a Bicycle, pilot episode. Oh dear. Elephant on a bicycle goes to school. Crumbs. Elephant on a bicycle and the very big hill. Elephant on a bicycle versus the tunnel. Oh no! Elephant on a bicycle goes to the cinema. Elephant on a bicycle versus King Kong. Bump. Elephant on a Bicycle, Season 2. Elephant on a bicycle in a china shop. Elephant on a bicycle and the angry ape. Elephant on a bicycle and the hungry caterpillar. Must eat. Elephant on a bicycle and the big wet waterfall. Elephant on a bicycle and the giant rabbit. Elephant on a bicycle and the feral chainsaw. Elephant on a Bicycle, Season 3. Elephant on a bicycle joins the circus. Elephant on a bicycle and the robbers. Help! Elephant on a bicycle and the curious kitten. Meow! Elephant on a bicycle on the farm. Moo! Elephant on a bicycle and the cup of fire. Elephant on a bicycle and the mystery of the missing wheel. Elephant on a Bicycle, Season 4. Elephant on a bicycle and the cream pie. Uh-oh! Elephant on a bicycle and the earthquake. Elephant on a bicycle versus the picnic. Elephant on a bicycle and the invisible bicycle. Elephant on a bicycle catches a plane. Elephant on a bicycle and the big splash. Elephant on a Bicycle, Season 5. Elephant on a bicycle at the seaside. Golly! Elephant on a bicycle to the rescue. Elephant on a bicycle and the big hole. Elephant on a bicycle and the beanstalk. Elephant on a bicycle and Humpty Dumpty's big fall. Sorry! Elephant on a bicycle and the garbage truck. Elephant on a Bicycle, Season 6. Elephant on a bicycle and the swarm of bees. Begone! Elephant on a bicycle and the volcano. Elephant on a bicycle and the Yeti. Grrr! Elephant on a bicycle and the big race. Gasp! Elephant on a bicycle on the moon. Elephant on a bicycle and the trousers with nobody in them. Elephant on a Bicycle, Season 7. Elephant on a bicycle and the very bumpy road. Elephant on a bicycle and the pirates. Elephant on a bicycle in upside down land. Elephant on a bicycle and the birthday cake. Elephant on a bicycle meets Barky the barking dog. Elephant on a bicycle versus zombies. Elephant on a Bicycle, Season 8. Elephant on a bicycle in outer space. Elephant on a bicycle on ice. Good grief! Elephant on a bicycle meets the 3 sharks. Elephant on a bicycle and the giant eagles. Elephant on a bicycle and the deep blue sea. Elephant on a bicycle meets Godzilla. The end. Stomp. Uh-oh. Sit down in front. Chomp. Obviously, it was impossible to choose just one, So you ended up watching the entire series in order from the first episode to the very last. Gee, we sure have wasted a lot of time, said Terry, when it was finished. Yes, said Jill. I wonder if we are there yet. Where? I said. Wherever it is we're going, said Jill. There's a planet out there that looks just like an eyeball, said Terry. Maybe that's where we are going. As it turned out, that's exactly where we are going. Hold tight, everyone, said Jill. We are going in.